Hi friends, welcome back. I want to talk about something. I think I kind of got inspired. I forgot why. I low-key forgot why I made this. Why I started pressing record. So we're gonna figure it out together. So right now I wanted to mainly get into business, right? Because much like in the last episode where I was talking about sort of, I guess, problems or my issue when it came to finding a good product not being met or not being available. Second to that was finding a new chair for this little studio setup, or this little recording setup, this recording corner. I want to find a new chair because if you look right here, it's just sort of a plastic generic chair. I honestly forgot how I came across it. I think I just picked it up from somewhere. Yeah, I don't remember. Something along the lines of. But point being, so I want to get a little bit of a nicer chair. And while I've been to some stores, I've been to everything from thrift stores to, big chain furniture stores, nobody has the style or the color that I want. So I've just gotten to this point where I'm like, I think I just need to start my own businesses at this point to fulfill the product for the stuff that I want. It's getting to the point where I'm like, I have just such a niche taste, or this is just genuinely what the state of finding, X product is, or maybe it's like maybe I'm in a certain category that I don't know what to constitute myself as yet, and so finding that out is hard because when I'm looking for stuff, I don't know the correct term or the correct verbiage to describe what it is that I'm specifically looking for. Again, unless someone is able to provide and tell me where to get some good stuff from, because like furniture stores like Ashley's, IKEA, I mean the big chains to the smaller local spots to even thrift stores, like literally no one has the exact chair that I want. And here's the thing too, obviously within reasonable price, because I'm not gonna spend $1,000 on a chair. Granted, I want it to be a nice chair, but I don't need it to be like, the king's throne. I just need it to be somewhere in the middle of usable and luxury. Like, I don't need it super crazy. That thought spiraled me into this line of thinking of, I can't say go into the furniture business or go into like the designer business. One, because it's not too much of my expertise. It's just more like, I like this thing, but that just because I like this thing doesn't necessarily make me, a potential provider or a good candidate to be a big boss in this thing, or to properly market, run, operate, own, whatever, a furniture store or a designer product. But I did think, and I did get to thinking, I was like, what if someone else was able to, like, what if I knew someone who had the resources or the interest to be able to go and do that and just propose them this idea? That's why I'm coming here, because I think I've been this person, and I've kind of met a couple people too who talk about wanting to get into business, or talk about wanting to do business, or maybe even have ambition. And with some people it's ambition, but have ambition or aspiration to own and operate their own business. Moral of the story to this is basically just quite literally think of any problem. Take my problem, for example, of not finding, a specific card holder, or not finding this specific chair, not even just finding a specific chair, specifically finding it in the color black. For whatever reason, chairs coming in black is a very, very hard thing to find. Anything else, it's a pretty good price tag. But then that's the thing, it's either too bulky or it's too small, both of which are outstanding prices. So I'm just like, all right, you know what? Like, I'll kick the can down the road. I'll find it eventually. And so if you find yourself being sort of that person who is semi-interested or interested in wanting to get into business or starting your own production in something, I would suggest just think of quite literally the most narrowest problem of finding a product, thinking of what color does it not come in the most, and then change that to where you're the provider for that issue. Now, after thinking about it too, I don't even think it needs to necessarily be in the sense of strictly starting your own business. I think, let's say, even if you're an employee somewhere, you have some sort of say or control over an idea or a contribution to the, what's the word? For approval of a product or whatever. I think if you see this and this is sort of something that you want to help, elevate yourself, whether you're an entrepreneur or intrapreneur, just lean into that more. Just lean into that. I kind of derailed from my original thought. My original thought Oh, okay, let's get back on track. So, if you have an idea for a business and if you don't have an idea for a business, but know you want to do business, just literally just think of a solution to one singular problem. Let's take this for example. This decanter, right? Let's say someone wants to get it for either like a display set like this, or maybe even wants to functionally actually use it for their beverage purposes. Usually, often you find them in clear. You could be the guy who makes them available in different colors. Obviously not in anything crazy like a pink, or a pink actually might do well, but like an orange, or actually, I don't know, multicolored, let's say. But let's say the generic colors. Maybe you do like a white paint or a black paint, something like that, some sort of like haze variant. That could also be something. I potentially would be in the market for that if it was like a black, or maybe even like a whiter paint. That's an idea. Stuff like display books. Often, people actually have to buy a actual regular book. And while there is such thing as like, display books where it's like fake books, you could be the one to dwindle it down to a niche. Often you see like travel aesthetic, hustle aesthetic. What I just kind of got the idea for is if I could find like display books, like the fake books for cars or a car niche. So instead of having to buy like a Porsche book or BMW book or a Nissan or Mercedes or whatever, I could just get that and have it be like $5-10 or cheaper than getting an actual book, hardcover book itself. That would be a pretty cool solution to another problem that I would have. What's another one? I think that's like more like sort of issues I'm having in my immediate accessibility. I kind of don't know what I'm trying to say, but point being, that's just some ideas, right? Just like look at something, think of an issue. With this black futon that's here in front of me, what if it came in different colors? Often, you see futons in usually like black, maybe a gray. Hardly ever do you see them come in like some crazy colors, just whatever niche, or maybe even a decal over it, or maybe even just like a different like threading pattern on it. And obviously a lot of this is a lot easier said than done, so I'm not discrediting it, or I'm not saying that it's gonna be super easy, because it's not. This also leads me to who you should probably target, because I'm gonna experiment with this idea, but I do think this might have a potential payoff, in my mind at least. And even then, it still kind of tailors to services as well, is when you're looking at as to who to sell to. And I believe Alex Hormozi talks about this as well. You want to find, instead of saying like 10 smaller clients, rather just charge the equivalent of 10 clients to one high-paying customer, and that alone will be a lot easier to manage, to oversee. Well, now granted, there's a lot of dependence. It's like investing, right? You obviously want to diversify, but I think even just with accumulating clients or customers, that sort of resolves itself after a matter of time. And so, because this is sort of something I'm thinking about, because in my local area, granted, I'm working in one metro as as sort of like a testing ground. I think in the future, once I get to this new region that I want to start breaking ground into, it might be a lot easier, because there'll be more of a demand for that. Somehow my network is bigger there than in this metro that I'm currently working in. But I think I just sort of been inspired to do this. Is I think if I could provide or produce evidence of value to, say, that higher paying or higher weight class client or prospect or lead or whoever, I think, and even let's say me, for example, let's say I do a free video shoot for a big chain store, even if it's free, even if it's unpaid, if it's like a known collaboration, like let's say I go talk to the manager or talk to whoever's in charge of that marketing, and they give me permission to do that, that's something I have under my belt, and it makes me look good. It gives me more credibility, makes me even more potentially reliable. There's these studios, there's these professionals who do it better, but even then, my issue is that they follow sort of like a cookie cutter template. So it's stuff like that I think, if you're looking to hear maybe sort of something not inspiring, but if you're still feeling like you have everything, you have the energy, you have the ambition, you probably even have the resources, you just don't have the direct path or know which road you need to go down, honestly, that would be my starting place, is just figuring out what it is specifically that people are having a hard time with. Again, can kind of depend, and especially when you're the one trying to think of it, because I've been in this situation too. You can't just like point at something and shoot and be like, okay, this is what we're gonna do. And obviously you hear people talking about like, say, having a niche, but it doesn't even need to be like super narrowed down. You know, in the case, sort of what I was thinking, like back to the furniture example, what if there was just a manufacturer that only made black furniture, right? I think that would solve a lot of issues in terms of like, you know, rather than depending on this one product to make up all your sales, and it's selling because it comes in that or in that color, why not, you know, diversify into X amount of other different things so as to be able to do that, you know, between, you know, black dining sets, black upholstery pieces, black desks, whatever. And maybe some company already does that, but you know, there's always going to be a new gen and space for the new saplings to grow. So that's just an idea. That was kind of something I was considering, or not consider, well, not act like actually considering, but something it was just sort of a piece of idea and inspiration that I had. So let that be what it will. So in the meantime, stay creative.